right, well, welcome back to another edition of Inside BBI with John and Eric. I'm John McDevitt. With me, as always, the senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. And Eric, here we are after the bye. It's Christmas season. We're ready. We're going to the wait, no.
No, we're not.
It's
we're
kind
first
of like,
out of the playoffs.
It's kind of, I thought about this earlier tonight. It kind of has a weird, almost preseason feel. Like we're like, oh, let's see what happens over these 4 games and what the team might look like as we head into the big part of our season, which is January in the offseason. New York Giants fan.
Yeah, and I had my Clark Griswold shirt on underneath here, but I'm in the basement. It's freezing down here, so I had to put a sweatshirt on. So I got my BBI sweatshirt on again, but it's freezing down here. So
BBI.
That's what happens when you run podcasts from your basement. So nice. By the way, I am drinking that Gnome Gang again. And so last time we were on, after the show, I was like, man, I'm feeling this. And I just checked it out. It's a pint, but it's 9.5%. So it's way more normal than a regular beer, which I think is usually around 4 or 5%. But this stuff kicks you in the butt a little bit. So that's what I'm drinking. Christmas deal. There's gnomes on it.
Yeah, and apparently I've just got this Pansy Radaburger Pilsner, which is a 4.9%.
4.9. Step it up, 9.5.
I know.
9.5. All right.
I know, but it was funny because I could tell the difference towards the end of the episode.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, okay, he's really into.
I hadn't had dinner yet, and it's like drinking. Anyways, all right.
Anyway.
All right. So what should we talk about?
Yeah, well, let's start off. You and I were just talking offline here, but we'll jump into that in 1 second.
A lot of juicy stuff, you guys.
A lot of stuff. Yeah, we did.
There's a lot going on, guys.
I want to start with the one thing we didn't talk about, but I only want to do it real briefly. Is the second episode of Hard Knocks came out last night, and I've watched it. I don't know if you've seen it.
Wait a minute. Pause for a second. We have never prepped anything. We wing it constantly. I don't think John we've ever had any outline. We just wing it constantly. So what you get is what I don't know if that's good or bad, but we wing it. I like
to say this. You'll never I've got to be careful because I'm not trying to point anybody out in particular. You'll never see my eyes go down and read something and then present it as if it was just a stream thought coming out of my head. But you could see that it's being read. I've noticed that on a few podcasts recently. You can see someone's reading what it is they want to say. We just do it naturally. It's always been that way. When we interview guests, it's natural unless I have something specific that I want to read to them that somebody gave me to read to them.
Like when you made Leonard Marshall cry.
Leonard Marshall cry. I had the Carl Banks one didn't hit as well as I thought it was going to. But that being said, Hard Knocks was on. What did you think of that little clip of Kafka in front of the team, dropping F-bombs left and right? And it just, to me, felt so reality show manufactured. It's just, and considering how bad we are, what your thoughts on what you saw?
I'm going to have to admit, I didn't see it. I saw people talking about how fake and phony it sounded. I heard it. This is what I heard, what I read on X, that it was, that the shows have been kind of underwhelming and that the Giants element this week was only that scene that you're talking about. Is that correct? It was only that really the Giants were only on to that one.
That was the main scene. There was a little bit about Brian Burns getting on the plane, talking to a couple people.
Oh, there was more? Okay.
Yeah, it was brief. And then there was a couple, I think they showed a little bit of the walk. Well, they showed them lining up to do the walkthrough in the ballroom of the hotel that they were at. That was pretty much it, though.
And so I saw that everybody, Giants fans, I shouldn't say everybody, most people were saying what you just said. And of course, Art was on there defending it. So Art's kind of turned into I'm going to defend what's going on with the Giants kind of thing. So the impression, I have to go back and watch it, but people were saying, remember, I've always said all along, because personality in public is right. What it is behind the scenes. He's going to put people to sleep. So maybe that is his real personality behind the scenes. Again, I haven't seen it, but everyone who is familiar with his public personality said it seemed faked and forced like you did. So the only thing I will say is we don't know what his real personality is behind the scenes, but everyone seemed to have the same reaction that you did.
It just seemed a bit much for the situation that you're in. Now, real quick, you mentioned Art. So I wasn't going to go there, but I'm going to now. So the following is strictly a John McDevitt's perspective. I'm not speaking for Eric, and I'm not speaking for Inside BBI. Just for myself.
Should we put
disclaimer. I went back and forth with Art today online,
Whoa.
and I called him a shill.
Oh God. Okay, I missed that.
He got a little uppity about something, and he really pushed back. And then I don't know if he messaged it to me specifically because I was the one who made a comment, but I think it was to somebody else, and I just happened to get rolled up in it, where he said so-called podcasters who think they're insiders, and then went on and was, and so I went back at him, and I'm like, yeah, I think you need to temper yourself just a little bit, considering you don't ask any real questions of anybody. You're a shill for the organization, and you are. And I mean, went back and forth. So here's the thing, Art Stapleton, you followed that up later today with this beauty. Geez, if you make too many changes, you might really affect Jackson Dart. Do you really want to do that? I'm like, fuck you. This organization is so bad.
Right.
What kind of change could possibly screw up Jackson Dart? You had a coach that was willing to yank him out of concussion protocol while he's being checked to get him back on the field to desperately keep his job. You have a coach who calls power running plays when you're down by double-digit scores with 4 minutes left in the game, and you're running your quarterback who's already had a concussion into the line head first. You have a coach who's a goddamn idiot who can't figure out that when a ref tells you don't challenge a play, it's unchallengeable, you throw the flag down again and challenge him one more time because, I don't know, you're a 4-year-old in Toys R Us. This is the kind of shit you're now trying to convince people we should not make too many changes, or are you just speaking for the organization? Shut up. Nobody cares about you. And we even know people inside the organization who kind of don't think you're for real either. So take that.
Well, it's not just Art. There's people in the organization that are really mad at the entire press corps that follow them. I don't know if they know that or not. All right, look, first of all, and we should get off this. If Art's out there, we've never claimed to be insiders if that was directed at us.
Exactly.
If people come to us and say, I have inside information, I've always, and you have always, and people associated with this have always said, don't shoot the messenger. We've heard this from people that we've heard from things from before. Take it or leave it. And I've said, if you don't like it, don't pay attention to it. But people generally say, yeah, I'd like to know what they're saying, even if you're not 100% sure about it. And I've always said that. I've always been open about that. So I'm not an insider. I don't know anybody other than people that publicly, other than people that I've interacted with the organization that everyone knows I've interacted, and those people are not feeding me information. No one from the New York Giants has ever fed me information other than them trying to use me as an influencer to stamp out bad information. So if they see something on BBI that they know is wrong and they see a storm brewing, I will get contacted and say, Eric, not in these, I'm paraphrasing, correct the record. Sure. That's not what's going on. That doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened. And that has happened at very high levels in the Giants organization. That's my extent of my contact with them. No one's feeding us information. So if you don't like the rumor stuff, again, we've put stuff out there that's been true. We put stuff out there that's been wrong as can be. So some of it's fun. When we're in January, February, March, April, that's the stuff. Everyone's like, where are the assets? What are they hearing? Blah, blah, blah. So people love that stuff. But also people love to hate it too. So it is what it is. We can get into that too. We can go into the asset stuff in a second. Yeah, but the other thing you mentioned with Art was what was the second point? Oh, the one was the podcast. And what specifically were you arguing?
He was talking about he's talking about now not making you like if you get rid of Kafka, it's more detrimental to Jackson Dart.
Look, I didn't before the draft. I love Jackson Dart now, but Jackson Dart cannot be the defining thing on whether you keep people now. And because that's how we've gotten into this mess. Oh, we got to do this to keep Eli Manning happy. Oh, we got to do this to keep Daniel Jones happy or Saquon Barkley happy. Or, you get into that game and then you don't really do structural stuff. You're basically, what have you said all along for years? The Giants react instead of being proactive. All right, now, so big picture, which is getting into the asshat stuff. All right, so which I've dropped some stuff this week. So the big picture stuff is much bigger than what some people have not been thinking about. Everyone's been thinking about Joe Schoen and the head coach. That's small potatoes at this stage right now. If John Mara is doing as poorly health-wise as I've been told and others have hinted at, like Francesca and other people out there who have said it. And you noticed when I posted that in BBI, there were a couple other people on that thread who said,
yeah, that's what they've heard. Yeah.
that's what they heard too. Now, I hope that's not the case. But if what I've been told by one person is correct, the news is both. I got confirmation from two people about the terminal nature of it, but when I heard from the one person the type of cancer, it's not good. So if John, God bless him, is this sick, and there's going to be an ownership transition, that, and I hate to sound so trivial because we're talking about a man's life here, that's a whole other ball game here, because that impacts everything with the New York Giants, because John Mara is the CEO and the president. I got in a sort of back and forth with people on Twitter today. I don't think they really fully understand what the role of the CEO and the president is. You know, they were and who the Mara family is and the history of the Mara family and why it works the way it does. So if John passes away, there's going to be who takes his role as president and CEO of the club. Right. And the expectation is it's going to be a Mara. And I think I don't have any inside information, and I haven't been, told this, but I think it's going to be a Mara. So the question is, which Mara is going to take over, and how is that going to impact the head coaching situation and Joe Schoen? So one of the things that worries me, again, this is not inside stuff, but whenever in any form of your life you have tremendous instability, people look for some sort of stability. And I'm a little bit afraid of the fact that if John passes away, whoever takes over might say, we don't need any more big changes right now. There's too much in flux. And that's kind of what Art was getting at. So would they bring back Schoen and Kafka simply because there's just too much upheaval at the moment? I don't know, but I wouldn't discount that. And that worries me a little bit.
Yeah, that's a scary thing, but you got to hope that is a completely separate. Those are two separate things. Part of me thinks the decision has already been made. You saw it when Schoen came out to the podium.
What decision?
That Shane's already gone. I think they already know he's gone at the end of the year.
I don't think that's been the information I have. I don't think that's been determined.
I can't.
I'm not sure. That one I'm not sure about. I don't have corresponding confirmation on that. So
do you think that's the problem comes down to? There's always been a thought that if it is a mirror of a little bit further down the chain, which would be Tim. If Tim is the guy, Schoen stands a much better chance of staying. If Chris is the guy, and I'm leaving one person out for the moment. If Chris is the guy, there was a better chance that Schoen was definitely gone. But there is a third option that you and I talked about that is kind of like, that would be the scary option.
So people have said all along that Schoen is the favorite of so-and-so. I don't know anything about that. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if anyone likes him. I don't know if they all like him. I don't know if there's a difference of opinion. I have heard, as other people have heard, that there are some people in the Mara family that like him and some people that may not. I don't know if that probably, I won't say it's probably, that could be possible. And if that is possible, that ties into exactly what I'm talking about, this big picture stuff. Who takes over to call the shots? Because who takes over may determine Shane's. I'm not convinced he's gone, because if somebody takes over who likes him, he stays. If somebody takes over who thinks he's part of the problem, he's gone. So we don't know who's going to take over. Hey, let's assume what I've been told is incorrect in terms of let's assume John is not doing well. John Mara is not doing well, but let's assume that what the other stuff I have been told is incorrect, or those people don't know, or they're just guessing. The reality doesn't change. Is if John passes away, someone's got to take over the team, and who likely is going to be taking over the team? Would you think it would be a Mara rather than a Tisch?
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
I don't think the Koch family is going to be involved in this. They have a 10%. They just came on board. As my understanding, it's a 10%.
Non-voting.
It was a $1 billion non-controlling.
Yeah.
I don't think they would take over. Now we can come back to them because there's a thing that's in my mind about that family that might influence all of this. So if it's coming from the Mara, if it's a Mara that's going to take over, so this is a little bit like this is almost like a royalty exercise. I had to go like the line of succession here. So Wellington Mara, for those who are too young to know, was the patriarch of this whole family when he took over from his father, and he ran the Giants forever. He had 11 children. His first son was John Mara. So John is Wellington's first son. Susan Mara is Wellington's second child and his first daughter. His third son is Chris Mara. Now, Chris had various titles over the years and has had his nose stuck in personnel issues on and off over the years. He's also been one of those guys that they've had run stories before that he's more interested in going to the horse track and doing that kind of thing. And people love, including me in the past, have wondered what is his role and what is he doing behind the scenes? And people have said he's not doing anything until they ask John, and John gets his nose bent out of shape and starts defending him and says how great he is at personnel stuff. And if he wasn't with the Giants, he would be a GM someplace else, which I think is bunk, but that's here nor there. So people might say, who is Tim McDonald? Tim McDonald is Susan's son. So the people that think, most people who think that if something happens to John have automatically assumed it would be Chris, the third son of Wellington.
Second son, third child.
Sorry, second son. You're right.
Yep.
Third child, second son. Or it would be Tim McDonald, who is his second child's son. And they've passed over Susan. And Susan, there are two Maras on the board of three Maras on the board of directors right now. John, who's president and CEO, Chris, and Susan. Now, Tim's got an important role in an organization, but he's not on the board of directors. So the people on BBI have correctly put some connected the dots on some of this and have started to mention Susan's name. So the wild card out there is Susan McDonald, who is Susan. Her maiden name is Mara. So it's Susan Mara McDonald.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the wild card out there, and the big question is which of those three, if those are the three, which of those three take over? Now, I'm not going to name names and be specific here, but I was told by one person that one of them isn't really interested. One of the ones that we think would have been the guy. And so one of the, if that's true, and I don't know if that's true, that means it may be down to two people. So
you're saying there's some jockeying for position.
Well, that's the big question, John, look, I know nothing about the Mara family. How do all these Maras get along? Is there any well,
that's a good question.
Is there any tension there?
Because we don't really see most of them. Even when Hard Knocks, you saw Crystal. Tim is he's actively in the organization, so you see him, but again, he's down, he's Laredo. But you got Chris. You saw him a little bit off and on, and we clearly felt like he was the guy. He was the whisperer to John. He would bring, we thought he was the guy who's bringing information back to John from different meetings. You never see Susan. She's not involved in anything. So it's a weird situation. Do you think the Giants themselves, the Maras themselves, may lean on the Rooneys a little bit? Keep in mind, Chris Mara's wife have ties to the Rooney family with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right. If I'm the Maras and I'm not sure what the hell I'm going to do, I'm certainly looking to the Rooneys for a little advice and help here. Right? What thoughts?
I would think so, but I don't know, John. My guess would be as good as yours. I don't know. I don't. The caveat in all of this is I do not very much about the Mara family other than the basics. So as I was reviewing this, and my wife was helping out to try to find out the family tree and do all this, and I explained the situation. She goes, She said it's a little bit like Henry VIII. It'll be she'd be Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth running the show here. So I don't know what's going on with the Mariners. I wondered though, if everyone gets along, great. But if there's jockeying going on, I like your choice of words, jockeying there going on.
Well, I use it with Chris though.
I wonder if this is, because the question is this, John, and I don't know how this works. It's one thing to own the team. It's another thing to make the football decisions. And we've known that ever since the Tisch family came on board, the Tisches have largely stayed out of their involvement on the board of directors has been, in my understanding, has been exclusively financial. So there are Tisches on the board. I've been asked this question a bunch of times on X. I have heard nothing about the Tisches being involved in any of this. I actually kind of wonder at times why they are even involved in the Giants, other than maybe a prestige factor. I don't know what they get out of this. I did hear, I don't know if this is true, that the thing that you brought up in the past, the liquidity factor with the Mara family, is an issue. So the team, and the losing hasn't helped. So you wonder, you and I have questioned, why are they nickel and diming? They have spent a lot of money in free agency. They've gone out and they've been, but the contracts have been done in such a way that you and I have said they're different than a lot of teams. And we've noticed that they've been nickel and diming for the last couple of years. The bottom tier of again, like that Ray McLeod that you mentioned got waived from the practice squad today. They sort of like Ray, anyways. So they kind of nickel and dime this stuff. So the question, what I wonder too, is, which popped in my head when I heard money could be an issue with the Maras, is how does the Koch family influence this? Are they giving anyone an infusion of cash directly? I assume that $1 billion is going to something.
But yeah, like what? That's a good question. Like what? Yeah. Where does that go?
I don't know. I would assume. Yeah, I don't know what that is. That personal? Does that go to the families, or is that some of that being funneled into the football operation? I have no idea. I don't know.
Clearly, the Giants ownership, while it's an organization, it's a team, a name, whatever you want to call it, a brand that is valued at X billions of dollars if they sell. That doesn't mean though that these guys are on the same playing field as a number of others. They're not a Jerry Jones. They're not Robert Kraft. They're not. They're lesser tier money there.
They don't have outside money coming. You're talking about the Maras.
I'm talking about the Maras.
Yeah, they don't have outside sources of money other than the Giants.
And they've done a poor job. First off, the stadium is a shit-ass tin can that they spent a ton of money, but you share it with another team. If you look at the way Dallas does stuff, they have all these different deals that they have set up within their own stadium, separate of the stuff that they do throughout the NFL, things that they have to share with the NFL, things they don't have to share with the NFL. They set up their whole, if you've ever been to Dallas, to their Dallas stadium, whatever the hell it's called, it's amazing outside. I'll say this. It was awesome outside. There's so much stuff that they have out there, things that they can do with it. Obviously they're making a shit ton of money on all the different things that they have set up there. It's great. The Giants don't have that. They're not without winning. And people confuse the ticket part. I know the Giants, Maras care that the stadium's not filled with Giant fans, but it's not hurting their pockets when it's filled with the other team's fans. So that part doesn't really matter. It's more the embarrassment that your own fans are not there. But they don't have a lot of other stuff going on. When you're not a winning team, you're not getting all this extra stuff that you could get in a New York market. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. So you got to wonder the way they handled, and I know I mentioned it many times. It's been too odd the way they would go into a game where they basically didn't even have a full roster. They didn't carry all the people that they needed to carry. The kicker situation was pretty effed up because you're already paying. Don't look at the contracts and how much money they spent on the salary cap, because a lot of that has already been paid. A lot of that's already been paid, so it doesn't matter. But the week-to-week stuff, they were really tight in the checkbook.
Well, we talked how they screwed Timon Fox out of just
constantly.
Right. So
And then the guys they bring up, like you just mentioned, right? They bring them up 3 elevations, then Little Jordan Humphrey, you're out of here. We'll
and
get
then
another
he
guy. Yeah,
leaves. Yeah.
yeah.
But the question is this. Well, one of the things I was told was this, is that the losing is affecting the financial bottom line. Surprise, surprise. Again, the TV contracts out there, and that gets shared. That's due to Wellington. That's Wellington's legacy, is that the 32 teams share the TV revenue. People who have bought their season tickets, that's already in the pocket. But it's like the other stuff that you're talking about. And like Christ, I know this is affecting the direct bottom line in terms of the tickets. But Pete, there was a thread on BBI today that the tickets to the game this weekend are going for $25
Yeah,
lower.
I saw that. Yeah.
That was unheard of when you and I were growing up.
Oh God,
the waiting list for Giants tickets were like 20 years for season ticket holders. This was pre-PSL crap and all of that. So, anyways, so the question is that keeps in the back of my mind. I think this is the least likely scenario, but it has entered my mind. If John passes away and the other children are tired of this shit, and the money's an issue, is it possible that we could see a New York Giants football team where the Maras are looking to sell? Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's entered my mind. And that would be what complicates that is the Tisch family owns half the team too. So how does that work out? That's the only thing with the Koch family is, do they have any interest in upping their stake at that point? Do they have any interest in the way it was? The media presentation on this was that the Koch family had no interest in the football operations with the Giants. I don't know if that's true. Well, let's assume it's true. So if that's true, then no, that's not going to be the option there. So I'm just throwing that out there that, are the Giants, could the Maras down the road here think about selling the team?
So what are the options for the Tisch side of things? Can they sell their half of it? Would
they want to?
Well, I mean, if let's say whatever the value was when Tisch bought in, it has to have gone up tenfold since then.
Yes, it's a good investment for them.
So, but if they sold it now, they'd make a shit ton of money. Their half. Someone else comes in. Now you've got the Mayor's got to work with somebody else. And if the guy who was running the whole thing, maybe you don't give up the name of the ownership, but you give up seating control. If everything, if you just ignore all that and just say the Mayor still own it, the one thing that they need to do is the thing that I've been pushing from now 2 months now. You got to hire a president of football operations, not a GM, the guy who oversees the GM. And I'm still fully on board of Tony Pastores of the Los Angeles Rams. You need to hire somebody like him to come in, and then he brings in his general manager. Let them run the football shit. You guys are not the Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft. Right. You don't need to be on camera when they show the owner's boxes. You rarely are. The one time we saw it, you throw a chair, 6.5 inches and see it barely touch the wall. So let somebody else run it and just be the owners of it and just take the money. But to me, changes. But I think that the financial piece is a huge deal, though. The way they handled the last 6, 7, 8 weeks, and it was detrimental to the product on the field. It was clearly a specifically financial decision, the way they did some of the stuff.
Yeah, and to answer Paul's question, it's a great question, Paul. I don't know. I mean, I would assume everyone. I mean,
they all have shares.
People who are more familiar with family-owned enterprises where children own multiple stakes of the franchise wouldn't be able to answer this question. I don't know.
Depending on how it's set up, I have some experience with a situation where it was a family-owned business that had shares. They could not sell the shares, their portion of the overall business, to someone outside of the business. They could sell their shares to somebody else in the family who could acquire their shares and buy them out, but they could not sell outside. That was the rules within that. Now, I mean that the rules that they have for this, and I've got to assume it is some sort of corporation setup structure that says these are what the shares are worth for everybody. These are the people that are in charge.
Right.
They can't all be equal, though. They can't all be, because somebody has to be in charge. So somebody else has to be listed with the NFL. That's the other part. What does the NFL have on file for succession? And why I guess they don't need to tell anybody, but clearly that's going to come up. It seems pretty telling when you make an announcement that you have cancer, but you don't say the kind of cancer. You don't say that we're fighting it. We're going to be concentrating on health. It basically was just, here's the announcement. And they haven't said a word since.
Well, the other thing is this. I thought my post and my tweet would sort of open the floodgates for some of the reporters to start saying something or to attack what I posted, but it's been stone cold silence, which is weird. So I either expected people to start saying, yeah, John is sick, or to say Eric's full of shit. Where the hell is he?
Yeah, where are you getting that from? Yeah. Nothing.
Because that's happened in the past both ways. I've had people say kudos to Eric for, it's not me, it's other people telling me this, or other people saying, Eric, you're full of shit, but it's been silenced. So I've wondered, if these guys aren't very good at investigative journalism, or they know and they're afraid of saying anything because it's a very serious situation and they're afraid of getting cut out. I mean, so right. Maybe they've been told you are not to discuss my father's or my brother's health situation, and if you do, you're out. That type of thing. So I find it very, very odd. In one of the biggest, most important team, a flagship franchise in the biggest city in the United States, that the owner's health situation has not been talked about at all. The last thing we saw a reference to it at all was the Brian Dable giving him a game ball after one of the Giants' 2 wins, saying, here's the John, because he's fighting.
He was doing chemo and he was doing radiation. And
that was the last
tough son of a bitch. Yeah.
Now look.
And he didn't even say anything. He just took the ball. He didn't even speak. He didn't speak to the team, or at least they didn't show it. He didn't speak to the team. He just took the ball at that moment, and that was the end of the video.
Right. I'm one of the people, because my parents were like this. I don't like to air my dirty laundry in public, and I understand that. And I am assuming the Mirrors are the same way. And there are going to be lots of people out there that says you have no right to know what the hell is going on with his health situation, and there's truth to that. However, when you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation in the high-profile sports industry, you're going to be under the looking glass, and especially given the situation where the Giants are going to make some of the most important decisions that they've made in years this offseason. So it's very, very odd that this hasn't been discussed. And if what I'm told is correct, it's going to come to a head very quickly. So we're going to hear, what I've been told is correct, we're going to hear something shortly.
Sooner than later, it's going to be.
Later.
Well, I mean, even if the absolute end is a little bit away, the closer you get to that point, the less you can even remotely be involved in anything. Like, I mean, to back up real quick, there was a thing after the Broncos game where somebody shared online that the Maras, or specifically John Mara, exploded, wanted to fire Daboll, was talked out of it. They didn't really specifically say, John, that somebody wanted to fire him and he was talked out of it. The only guy you can do that to is John Mara. If Schoen wanted to fire him, the only person, you don't talk him out of it. John Mara would just go, no. That's not talking him out of it. That's telling him no. And as we know, the coach is getting fired comes directly from the owner. It does not come from the GM and the Giants organization. So there was that rumor that went out there, and then that got kind of tamped down, and then we saw a couple weeks later that it absolutely still happened. I'm beginning to think that was far more true than what we originally thought. And in my own experience with stuff that with my dad's illness, with treatment, so he with the chemo treatment and stuff, he's also on a lot of steroids. They give you a lot of steroids and stuff like that. And the one thing that's been very noticeable, my mom's mentioned it more than once, is that after treatment, he could become very volatile at different times. Like little things will really set him off. No. And I can imagine off that big win against the Eagles, right? Daboll gives him the game ball, calls him a tough son of a bitch that he's fighting. He's doing chemo. He's doing radiation. This guy gets the game ball. The following week, you blow a double-digit lead in a time frame in which now we think maybe he already knew his situation was not long-term. That set him off, that he was ready to fire the coach. But we also think that maybe he wanted to fire the coach at the end of last year and was talked out of it. So you can see that that's probably true. So if that's true, now you come to this point and the things that you've heard, which, by the way, I'm going to give you a shit ton of credit. A, you heard a little bit about this a week ago, but we didn't share it because it was not confirmed. We just kind of talked, but we didn't. But then you did have it from another source, gave you the same information. If it's just what you've heard, the
And I
Giants
hope it's not. I hope it's
right,
not.
right.
That's the other thing. I hope we're coming on here a week from now and
He's made an appearance. Things are different.
I hope the people that have told me this stuff are dead wrong. And because I'd rather be, I don't know if humiliated is the right word, but humiliated and have a man have his life.
Well, you have not made a definitive statement. In fact, you've been very clear. So I'll back you up. You've been very clear. This is stuff that's been told to you, and it came from a second source. But by the way, if you're not familiar with BBI, BigBlueInteractive.com, there are threads about the John Mara situation where multiple people who say that they have heard they're you can look them up. They have said they've heard similar things, and the stuff that they've heard all kind of matches. So if that is the case,
and people, I want to throw this out, that while it doesn't sound good, there have always been miracles. So that's what we're still hoping for.
But if that's the case, then that really means even in a miracle situation, you are not capable of running an organization like this right now. You shouldn't be. You should focus. You're focused on your health, man.
Well, that's John. That's the question. Who's running the show right now?
I think that's why nothing's really.
And people are going, and they're probably right. You should use commanding rather than commandeering, Eric. Who's running the operation right now? Who's like the day-to-day operations? And I'm not talking about Joe Schoen level, because people keep talking about Joe Schoen. This is way bigger than Joe Schoen. By the way, I gotta believe 5 people on X who told me that Kate Mara should be the one who takes over. She's an actress. She's not taking over the job.
Maybe she could just act like she's taking over.
Yeah, I think people know the name and other things, and they want.
I don't know, but do you see? Look at the Colts, man. I don't know. She's not pretty, by the way, but the Colts daughter there, she's just walking. By the way, I don't know why that gets so much credit. Like, oh, look at how great. I mean, first off, you're standing on the sidelines with a notepad and a pencil, and you're writing. What? This isn't baseball. You're not tracking outside, inside, high, low, curve. What are you writing down on paper?
I missed this. What are we talking about?
The Colts, the owner, the daughter of the Jim Irsay, she's on the sidelines all the time now. And she has like this notepad and she's writing stuff down with this pen. I'm like, what are you writing down? Are you like sketching out where everybody was on the field, or are you just going second down? What the hell are you writing with by the way, get a tablet. Anyway.
By the way, before I forget,
it'd be cool if we had Kate Mara walking aside.
You and I have shit on Daniel Jones a ton, and then said
I felt bad for that guy.
Oh man, boy, I just feel terrible for him. I mean, anyway, just wanted to throw that out there before we get
I'm glad you said that. I felt bad for him for the situation. The Colts were coming back to earth, which I kind of expected a little bit, but that injury to come up the way it did, and someone asked, I don't mean to jump all over the place, but someone asked a legitimate question: where the hell over the last like 6-7 years did these Achilles injuries?
They're coming up everywhere
out of anywhere. Just and he barely did anything. He just kind of stepped to the side.
I would assume it's what Cy, and who's an expert in this area, because Cy runs. People don't know he has his own gyms and he trains people. He's talked about this, but even before that, us novices have said people are overtraining. And Cy, I think, has said the same thing. My guess is people are overtraining and their muscles are ready to snap is what's going on. So I think, and I don't think people are going to back away from that. Hell yeah. If I was a professional athlete, which I'm not, I'd be almost concerned about doing too much and not enough flexibility stuff. And I think that's kind of what's happening, is my guess, because what else would cause all these, and it's not just the turf. Look, the turf that used to be around when John and I talk about the heyday was way worse than the turf that's out there now. I mean, it was like, so it's. Do you
remember? Did you remember years ago? And I know it's Philadelphia. That and Fred Barnett was running a deep pass from Randall Cunningham, and he tore his ACL. He tore his ACL in both knees. On the stage,
they had a rut in their own.
It
was terrible. All right, so people out there who I want you to think big. it's big picture stuff with the Giants. Joe Schoen right now, small potatoes. Head coach is small potatoes. This other stuff's got to get sorted out because that stuff is going to affect the other stuff. Right. So, and it could be really, if you don't want Schoen and Kafka to return, it could be really bad if the wrong person gets in there or vice versa. So that stuff is going to determine who's calling who stays and who goes is going to be based on who's calling the shots. I don't know who's calling the shots right now. I'm not talking about the Joe Schoen level. I'm talking about above
the organization.
Is John still calling the shots, which I'd be a little bit wary about?
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine if what I'm been told is true that he is, but I don't know. And if he's not, then who is? Or is it a group of people? Is it, who knows? So, but
so let's.
That's the other thing with this. One last thing. That's the other thing with the sports reporters. Where the hell are they in this? Why isn't
they don't seem to be asking any question? Nothing.
Who's running the fucking team? The Giants have more sports reporters than any freaking team out there. Can one of you guys go and say, this is who's running the goddamn show right now?
Right.
I'm sorry, John, but this is big. This is important stuff. Everything we're talking about in BBI to me is small potatoes right now because this big, huge thing above. And I think some of us have put this out of our mind. There was a post by somebody on the site going, what was that? There was somebody saying
only on Friday night.
The news that I posted blindsided him. I think it was Mike, but blindsided him. And he said, when he heard that John had cancer, he just assumed he would recover. And that I can't believe that this is, it could come to this. Cancer, the comment actually surprised me a little bit because cancer is cancer and cancer kills. And you can get cancer and you can be a child and get cancer and die.
Sure.
I mean, but I've known people. I mean, Patty Traina's had cancer. She beat it, but Patty's had cancer. So she's my age, and she had it years ago. So you can get cancer at any age, and it can kill you at any age. It's serious shit. Anyways, all right, sorry.
But I think, and I will say too, Si's here. I will say that in some ways, the announcement the Giants made almost lessened it, right? Like they made it sort of like, we just want to announce that John has this and whatever, and that was kind of it. And so it didn't sound dire. It didn't sound not dire. It just was kind of it. And it has not been. There's been nothing that's gone back to it. Now, part of it is the media. You're right. No one's asked a question. Hey, how is John doing? Hey, who's currently is John running the day-to-day operation? Above Joe. Is he? Because.
Well, who's second in command?
Well, ownership fired Brian Daboll. That was clear. That's what Joe Schoen said.
Who fired him?
That's where the question should have been asked then. Who in ownership?
Mike Kafka came out and Mike Kafka said, no, it wasn't. No, I'm sorry. Joe Schoen. Joe Schoen came out and Joe Schoen said, I didn't fire him.
Okay, he said ownership fired him, and I support that. That's what he said.
And you got a room full of reporters, and not one fucking reporter said who specifically fired him.
Well, but to give them credit, blood was in the water, and they went after Joe Schoen.
I don't care. That's their job.
Well, I know, but the opportunity to rip Joe Schoen apart, they all jumped on it. So I give them a pass then, but since that time, we've been now 2 weeks since that time, no one's asked a question, who's making these decisions? Because let's stop there for 1 second. Brian Cox just got fired. Now, Kafka can make the decision that he wants to fire, but Kafka's not making it by himself. He clearly had to get clearance from Schoen. So does Schoen go to ownership?
Did he? But we're assuming that. I think you're right. But we don't know.
I think you'd have to. I mean, are you going to give the keys to Kafka and fire anybody you want to on the staff? I mean,
I assume you're correct, John, but I don't know. If you told me, are you going to bet your house on that? I don't know. I don't. Who is running? Look, I shouldn't say I love it. It makes me sound sick. I did like how Pat Leonard went after Joe Schoen a little bit. All right. But there was plenty of time right after they said, I didn't fire. He said twice, I did not fire Brian Daboll. He said it twice. The immediate follow-up question is, was that John who fired him? Now, maybe they wouldn't have answered it.
Well, he probably would have gone.
Question.
He probably would have gone. I understand the question, Pat.
I understand the question. I don't care if you get that answer. You guys still got to ask that question, and you have to start digging around. Look, I've heard things over the years that have been right, and I've heard things that have been wrong. Like, I'll give you an example. The right things was the Brian Burns trade. All right, the Brian Burns trade happened.
Sure.
The wrong thing, I heard the Drake May trade up was a done deal. Remember that fiasco? That was wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
My sources are infinitely worse than any of these reporters. Okay. These reporters are plugged into all kinds of people. So why are they not checking with all their league and Giants sources and finding out what the hell is going on behind the scenes in this? Are there any Mike Garafolos anymore out there to do this? I mean, but the national reporters aren't doing it either, I should say. So Mike Garafolo's not doing it either. This is a big story.
But maybe it is an NFL edict. Leave that alone. Don't. And that could be. Let's be honest. The NFL, they'll let you know what they want you to know, and they'll keep you from knowing what they.
You notice how they go after Twitter accounts that take over, that do a better job of reporting inside information than the NFL insiders on the networks. So when you do have one of these guys out there, who's the guy that was on BBI that has his own Twitter account? Now I can't think of his name. Somebody in chat will remember it. The guy who's got his own Twitter account, he's got tens of thousands of followers now. He had to keep setting up new Twitter accounts because Ricky.
Ricky. Yeah.
Ricky had to set up Twitter accounts because they kept shutting him down. I bet you the insiders didn't like that. So, anyways, all right. So we've been all over the place.
Well, let's stick real quick then to the Brian Cox thing. Which, by the way, I'm gonna be 100% honest. I forgot he was even on the staff. Brian, you never heard anything from him. He never did anything. But apparently, don't tell him he's got to sit in the back of the plane, because that's the end of that shit.
What was that tweet? What was that? I mean, that was like, I have more questions now than answers with that.
I suspect he was pissed off about who was made the defensive coordinator, and that just led to one more thing. And then if the plane part is true, which, I mean, that's a weird thing to make up. You could have made up anything you wanted to. That's a weird one to make up. So I got to assume it's true. Maybe he normally sits.
Well, remember what I said in our last show, and people can go back and look at this when they had the position coach interviews with the media. Andre Patterson was asked, was he mad that he got passed over? His initial response was, hell, I'm paraphrasing, hell no. I'm too old to worry about the stuff. I didn't even think about it. But everything he said after that seemed to be saying, without him actually saying it, I'm the most qualified person to have been picked for that role.
Yeah, in fact, what he
I'm
said
listening
was,
to this, and I'm like, he's pissed.
Yeah, he said the younger
sound pissed, but his answer was, again, I made a post. I never went back and looked to see if people got the same reaction I did. I started a post and said, are you guys getting the same reaction that I did from this? I think Andre's not terribly happy with this. So the only reason I bring that up is if Brian Cox and Patterson supports him, maybe that was part of what you were just saying.
There is the other piece that says that Brian Cox has a direct relationship with Brian Daboll. So that may have also played a role here, that he's not happy with certain things and whatever. I can just imagine, though, the plane piece probably look, if it were me, this is how it came down. Normally he sits in seat 3, but maybe Kafka decided, listen, you're going to sit wherever your position group ranks in the NFL. He's
a guy
you're in 32. You're in 32.
He's who's the guy with the red stapler in office?
He's Milton Wiggins.
He's Milton. You're going to go to the basement. You're going to the basement. And then you're going to stop giving him his paycheck. The problem will work itself out.
Yeah. We're not going to. No. We didn't tell him. We just stopped getting a paycheck.
These things tend to work themselves out. And you know what's going to happen? Brian Cox is going to burn down MetLife because for all the young people in chat, or younger than us, I should say, tell people what Brian Cox was like as a player.
Oh my God, the dude was insane.
Remember giving everyone the finger?
He's the guy. He would get potentially personal fouls on his own team. He'd be screaming at people on the sidelines. His helmet would be in his hand. I mean, that dude was reckless. Oh yeah, he was reckless and crazy. That's why I totally forgot he was even a coach on his team.
Yeah,
I'm like, could we have put together a more eclectic and I say eclectic, maybe I mean more chaotic group of coaches than we did. And we've changed them out. I mean, we changed out Wink Martindale, which obviously that didn't work. And this group, and yet here comes Kafka, stands up in front of a group having this conversation that I know he's like, we got 4 games and we're gonna win it and we're gonna go down swinging. Okay, technically you go down swinging when you still actually have an opportunity. You're already eliminated from the playoffs. There's no going down. In fact, if anything, you need to lay down and stay at number 1 in the draft. This is the worst thing possible as you go on a 4-game winning streak.
Have we reached the point, John, that if the Giants win a game, we're going to be upset?
I have such a hard time. It's so hard for me.
I can't root against the Giants.
I never do. But
I think a lot of Giants fans are automatically assuming they're going to win at least 2 of the last 4 games. Don't assume that, Giants fans, because we'll have to look. Jane Daniels is not playing. That's a tremendous help for the Giants coming up on Sunday.
Maybe.
The Raiders look like shit. Dallas is still in it, and Minnesota is you don't know what you're going to get from Minnesota. But well,
and on top of it, right? This is the perfect storm if the first half of the season went kind of what I was hoping, or even forget what I was hoping. If they had just won some of those games, they had the lead, right? If they're a 6-win team right now, your last 4 games, 3 of them are at home. 3 of them are against teams you should absolutely beat in where you're playing. The Raiders on the road, who cares? The Vikings and the Commanders, with where they're at in their seasons, you should win those games. Dallas in the last game of the season, a team that could be out of it as of this weekend, might be out of it depending on what happens. You literally could have won your way on the back half of the season. Now I'm going, could you please just don't play that good against Washington. Just lay down against the Raiders. Maybe rest some people. I don't know, because the first pick in the draft doesn't mean anything to me, but it sure does if I trade it. That's
the only reason that. And if Cy's still with us, and maybe he bailed, and we got to have Cy on and talk draft soon. It's not a good draft for the Giants that's a stick and pick,
right?
If they're going to be picking in the top 5, but it's not a great draft, but it might be a good draft if they are picking in the top 2 and somebody really wants one of the quarterbacks. Which it's weird. None of the quarterbacks being talked about were being talked about at the beginning of this year.
I know, right?
So weird. It's so weird. I mean, there are names out there that are. That's why I'd like to talk about side. But the more you and I talked about this, I was wrong about this. But thank God we got Dart when we did. Now maybe again we'll have to see where the Giants are end up picking. Like there are people I just saw in chat here. Oh shoot, that's not the right one.
Sorry, I jumped over. I took yours. Dave's still in Cy's still in the chat. He's still
okay.
Here.
Master Mariner. Is it Mariner or Mariner? I don't know.
I think it's Mariner. It's Mariner. I could be wrong. Maybe it is Mariner.
A lot of people are making that assumption. I don't make that assumption anymore, especially after now. If they hadn't gotten crushed like they did against New England, I would have been way more on board with 2 wins. They don't win. Look, if Kafka doesn't win 2 of the last 4, how do you keep him?
Please don't keep him even if he does. I mean,
I know most people feel that way.
God almighty.
But remember, before the New England game, there were a lot of people on BBI that were saying, I'd like to keep Kafka, or I'd like to keep him as an offensive coordinator, or that time. And I saw it this week. I saw somebody. It was Andy in Boston. I think it was Andy in Boston who said, "Can't we keep him? We have McCarthy come in and keep Kafka's offense." McCarthy's not going to keep Kafka's offense.
But if your argument is Joe Schoen should be looked at no differently than Brian Daboll, that he's a 20-45, I think, in 1 at this point. Daboll was 20-43 in 1 when he was fired. Right. Well, guess what? So is Mike Kafka. He's no better. Like, you can't just go. Same with Carmen Basilio. I think he's a really good offensive line coach. I hope we get to keep him. But guess what? I'm okay if we don't. Why? Because he's been part of an organization that's been losing. If another coach comes in and wants to bring his own guys,
yes,
so be it.
I hope that, and I've been under the impression over the years, I didn't used to think that ownership has gotten involved in sort of dictating maybe that when somebody comes in that certain coaches get retained.
Right.
And I hope that whoever is calling the shots, who interviews the new coaches, says we're not going to put any. You get to pick the people. We're not going to tell you have to keep somebody.
I mean, isn't that how we ended up with God, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. The offensive court with Joe Judge, the former Cowboys coach. Isn't that how we ended up with him?
Oh, Garrett?
Yeah, isn't it how we ended up with him as the offensive coordinator? They kind of pushed it onto him to go in that direction.
I don't know, but that would make sense because Garrett was held in high esteem, I think, when he was a backup quarterback here with Kerry Collins, right? He was Kerry Collins' backup, right?
Yeah.
So, and he was here with was that Jared Lorenzen too at the same time, or no? He's dead. Is he dead now?
Jared Lorenzen is dead, but Phillip Rivers is channeling his body. It's like, if you've seen it, he looks like Jared Lorenzen too. Jesus Christ!
Well, our new punter looks like Bill Burr. I don't know if you saw.
Well, how does our punter get fucking hurt on a bye week?
On a bye week. We still have right now we have a punter and a kicker on the practice squad. I think that's funny. And at one point in the season, we had 3 kickers on the practice squad. I have to think that's an NFL record. When you had 3 place kickers on the practice squad, they had to be an NFL record. Now, one of them was an international player, but still was 3. It was really funny.
Yeah,
and that's not funny. It's actually not.
We're
funny.
the only ones.
That goes back to Joe Schoen with we've learned from our. Our
he's like, I don't make the same mistake twice. No, you do 3, 4, 5 times, sure, but 2 times, no, definitely not 2 times. So I've had some thoughts, and I know we're jumping around, but now that we're talking about the roster pieces, I had some thoughts, and I'm going to go against something that I've been very adamant about over the last few weeks, and that is Jalen Hyatt needs to be active for this game. Okay, and hear me out on why.
No, we reverse roles. No. Remember, I used to defend Jalen Hyatt.
I'm not defending.
Fuck Jalen Hyatt.
Let me finish. Let me finish where I'm going with it. What's one thing that I've complained about constantly about some of the ways the Giants design some of their plays? They tend to do plays where, for whatever reason, little tiny Wan'Dale Robinson is the lead blocker out on the side for a pull with dart, bubble screen, and Wan'Dale's blocking. I'm like, why is Wan'Dale blocking? I want Jalen Hyatt to come in. I want him to start. I want him to start in place of Slayton. I want you to run every fucking power run that you have to that direction and have him be the lead blocker. I want him to be the lead blocker on every bubble screen. I want him to be the lead blocker on every power run you run with the.
Why?
I want Jalen Hyatt beat the shit by the time the end. Why? Because you owe us the money that you got paid for playing the last 4 years. I don't want you to catch the ball. I want you blocking.
He's not going to block, though.
I don't care. Just line him up where it is. I don't care.
Deontay Banks of the offense. He's not going to block.
Just put him out there. Line him up as an inline tight end. Put him down on the goal line. I want Jalen Hyatt. I want my pound of flesh for the freaking time that you've spent here doing nothing.
It was never been clearer to me that Jalen is definitively done here, that after the coaching change, that Jalen was inactive and is not even an afterthought. And Gunner became more involved, and they brought in who's the wide receiver that we just got off the practice squad from Pittsburgh? The guy that was
Isaiah Hodgins.
Isaiah Hodgins. Sorry, thank you. Hodgins came in and immediately made play. Jalen Hyatt's done can be, and I bet you he's already checked out. I bet you he's already got his suitcases packed and his.
Checked out. How would you know? How would you know from his play if he was checked out?
That what I do think is interesting, and I think you caught this. You mentioned this in a thread today. Is this so? They brought 4 people are designated to return, which means the Giants have 3 weeks to decide. Now there's only 4 weeks left, so they could be playing games here where they just wanted more people to practice too. But I don't think that's what's going on. Usually, when someone's designated to return, historically speaking, the Giants have them. And they were listed. I think all of them were listed. All of them were listed as full practice today.
Yeah.
It was Bo Collins, Josh Azudu, Muasau, and who am I forgetting? Muasau. Art Green.
Yes.
Art Green. So all of them are technically on IR, but they're practicing and so if they're going to be activated, the Giants are going to have to make 4 roster moves by Saturday, and that's a lot. And that makes so you brought up the question that, like, for instance, Runyon's on the injury report right now.
And Van Roten didn't practice at all. I mean, he's missing for some reason.
So is it? We're getting to the state now. If we had a coach that we knew was going to be back, this would make more sense to me in the sense that they would be starting to get ready for next year, and they would want maybe Azudu to get some work because they know Runyon. They know not Runyon. It was Van Roten.
Van Roten,
not Runyon. I apologize.
Yeah, you're fine.
Van Roten, because Van Roten's not going to be back next year, or shouldn't be. God help us if he is. But if Van Roten is mysterious to me, that was kind of a mysterious appearance.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. Yeah.
So is that one of those deals where they're gonna, like, he's got an injury, so he's not going to play. Josh is going to play, and I think you picked up on that, right?
Yeah. Well, that's my thought. Yes, I'll let you continue because there's something I wanted to bring up about that.
I guess I have to go back and watch this rant.
Oh, dude, it's nothing but F-bomb after F-bomb. Right. I mean, I felt pretty good about how I talk normally, but that was interesting. So here's real quick, since you brought it up. One of the things that Dan Duggan, so look up on X, and I don't know if it was an article that Duggan did, but he definitely posted on X. And he's been great, by the way. He's been posting some. I really like Doug. Duggan does a really good job. He mentioned, here's the thing. He's got it out. He's got it out for Joe Schoen too. He definitely does not want Joe Schoen back. And he said, here is a specific failing of Joe Schoen. If you really wanted to look at something, this is something to look at. And it's the fact that Joe Schoen, which we all know, plugs holes. That they find a hole, they plug the hole, moves on to plug another hole. But the problem is you don't do anything behind it. It's literally that quick patch, but nothing else. And how you can tell that is he signed some free agents, but he's got a bunch that are really, you've got Van Roten, not under contract after this year. You've got Eluemunor, whose contract is coming up. So basically the whole right side of your offensive line. You've got Marcus Bowe, but you don't really know where are you even going to play him.
Marcus Bowe should be playing, I think, somehow.
You would think, right? You would think. Josh Azudu, again, now all of a sudden, which we need to talk about that another time, is like, well, when did he suddenly become healthy that he can just immediately practice and possibly play?
I think now you got ready for a while.
That's the thing. So why did you wait? But what I'm saying is, if he was ready for a while, why did you wait?
John,
we're already out of it.
And you and I could spend an entire show talking about questionable personnel decisions this team has made, even just with the guys that they have on this roster, going back the full 4 years. You and I have talked over and over again. Why did they do this? Why did they do that? And you and I are. I'm a guy in my basement. I'm in my basement.
Well, it would be fine too if what they did was consistent. If the methodology, the thought process was consistent. But it's not. It's inconsistently applied depending on whatever you're doing. And a legitimate question, and I believe it was Pat Leonard who asked the question when he said, basically pushing him, well, can you explain why some people have roster spots who clearly don't have a future with the team or not participate, but yet they're kept on the roster?
That was Pat.
Yeah, and he was definitely hinting at like Neil and Hyatt.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's true. So here comes Josh Azudu, right? All of a sudden, Van Roten has a mystery of whatever, and here comes Josh Azudu. He's going to be healthy. But you've got a bunch of these guys are unsigned. So when we go into the off season and our cap space isn't spectacular, it's mid-range for a ton of holes to possibly fill on that offensive line. And it's not just holes to fill. Those are starters. But if you move a Bowe in to start, that means you're now missing a backup, where are they coming from? So every time he fixes something, it's a very temporary fix.
Well, there's no better example of that in my mind than the cornerback situation, not cornerback situation. So we were hoping, you were right, we were hoping that our first round draft pick, Tay Banks, would look like a first round draft pick. He didn't. We're hoping that Paulson Adebo would stay healthy and earn his contract. He hasn't stayed healthy, and he's been kind of up and down. When those guys have not been in the lineup, and other people, we've been very like, there's no depth. There's no depth at corner. And that's one of the reasons why corner is still. Do you know how many corners we've drafted high in the last decade? I mean, go back and look at the guy, even in the first round alone, and we still need a number one corner. We could spend we've been talking about like bad draft picks on the offensive line. Holy shit, have they screwed up at cornerback? So you could make an argument that if the Giants trade down, there'd be a corner. I don't hope they don't do that. There's a corner Cy really likes that's coming off an ACL.
Yeah, out of Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee. And there are other corners that other people are high on, but I wouldn't go corner in the first round. But the Giants are going to need to take a corner at some place in this draft because it's a mess. And that's on Schoen, that was on Gettleman, and that was on Reese. They screwed up first round draft picks on corners. And
right. It's also marrying the type of player to the type of defense you're actually going to play. You know, like Seattle,
just Tay Banks, would it really have mattered if
I agree. But what I mean is, though, right now I feel, and I've said this numerous times, like you can go back and look at previous shows. I said the same thing. We get all these shiny parts, but they don't go together. Like the Giants, even in their heyday, right? Defensively, we were much stronger in the front seven than we were in the back.
Mm-hmm.
But the back, those guys were not piss poor. They fit what we were doing. They were very physical. They were physical guys when we had a really tough front. So you could go with, at one point it was Elvis Patterson on one side, Perry Williams on the other. Then it was Perry Williams and Mark Collins. Then it was Mark Collins, Perry Williams off and on with Everson Walls when we go into 90. You would the safeties. You had Terry Kennard. We moved on. Herb Welch took for Kennard. After that, Kennard comes back, but then he's kind of injured. The Giants drafted guys like Adrian White at safety, didn't really work out. But then you got Greg Jackson, you got Myron Guyton. They were big physical guys. They were not going to cover tight ends one-on-one well, but they would come up and absolutely blast you. The Giants defense was designed to allow them to do that. I don't know what our defense is designed to do. Our secondary is just a bunch of guys, and none of them seem to be doing a good job, period.
I'm going to push back a little bit on it because I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think our problem is we just get sucky players. So the comment, and I had to laugh at this first because I was thinking, we've had some really stupid corners, but then I think about, if you go back and look at the NFL.
DeAndre Baker, come on, he was smart.
If you look at the great NFL corners, I think of all the positions in football, quarterbacks are probably the dumbest. If you ever hear in general, if you hear them interviewed from team to team over the years, even go back to the Raiders, remember the old Raiders corners?
Mark Collins and Perry Williams are going to hate you.
Well, Mark Collins is a smart guy.
Perry Williams
too. But John, when you hear corners speak, usually they're not the most articulate.
They're more athlete. They're the athlete out at the corner spot. Yeah, no, I got you.
Our problem with corners, because you just brought up physical corners. Think of the corners we've had.
We're pretty soft.
Dory, Jackson, Tate. I mean, we're talking guys who there are things called business decisions. These guys make business decisions look good. I mean,
they're making business decisions in week 4.
but they don't even hide it. You know what I mean? Even this year with Jackson and Philadelphia, you brought it up a few games ago. Remember that one on the goal line with Philadelphia?
Oh my God!
He was like,
he's like, I'm not having any part of that. I mean, but let's be honest though, Deontay Banks makes Jackson look like Ronnie Lott out there. And by the way, before anybody says Ronnie Lott was a safety, he was drafted as a cornerback. He was a Pro Bowler as a cornerback his rookie year.
Yeah. But anyways, but I think in general we just need to draft better players. I get that. You're right. The pieces need to fit. But I think to their credit, but it's also coming and bitten them in the ass. I think Shane and Gettleman and Reese, I think they asked for the input of the coaches, and I think those coaches had a lot of input in the players that they drafted. We know Wink Martindale was super, super high on Tay Banks, that he lobbied to draft him. So they are listening to these coaches. Maybe they've been listening to them too much. I don't know, but then they get rid of Wink. And before people say they shouldn't have gotten rid of Wink, Wink kind of caused that himself too.
What was the name of the guy who used to administer the psychological tests for the Giants way back in the day?
And everybody thought, and
it was like this, like a 200 question
page thing. And
yeah,
Dion
it was
like, I'm not going to.
Dion's like, where are you guys picking? Well, I'll be gone way before that. I'm not doing it.
He was a favorite subject on BBI in the early days. So BBI started in 1995, and he was one of those guys that people loved to rag on. But maybe there was something to that psychological test.
Goldberg, something.
Yeah, it was something like that. It was Gold.
Can you imagine if we gave that test to some of these guys today?
Oh God, yeah, no.
They would never get.
I mean, social media has reduced my attention span, and I'm an old guy. But the young people out here, I mean, Christ, my kids with their phones right now. Hello, read a book.
Speaking of draft, I know we're kind of all over the place now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Speaking of drafting players and kind of weirdly and whatever, I want to sit down with the Giants, like the people who make the decisions over the last few years. I want to sit down with them and go, okay, please lay out for me, what is a red flag to you? Because I'm just curious how you could draft Kadarius Toney.
DeAndre Baker.
You could draft DeAndre Baker, but then Micah Parsons is like, Bob, the hell with that guy. We're not taking him. What makes you off that with some of the bullshit that you've drafted?
Who was the corner that they threw into the ice tub that was a weirdo too?
It's not Eluemunor.
Was it Eluemunor? Was it Prince Eluemunor?
I thought Prince was the one who got the hazing thing.
Yeah, it was him. Wasn't it him?
Yeah, Prince Eluemunor.
I don't know, but yeah, we've had a lot of issues with corners. We're drafting corners, anyways. Sorry.
Oh, I mean,
I know you're right, but what is why is Kadarius Toney not why was he on your draft board? So,
well, that's the thing, right?
Like, if you're still out there, Cy said there was something with him before the draft.
Dude, he was known. He had gotten in trouble for having like an AR-15 or something in the back of his car one time, and it's like, how does that make it through? But then you go, "Now we're not drafting that guy."
Yeah, and Parsons was going to be the problem, So we're going to take Kadarius Toney because Parsons is going to. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so my point is
here we are.
Draft better players. So there is one thing that you said earlier that I wanted to piggyback on. I got into. If the gentleman is in chat, he was tweeting at me that Maras can't be running the show, that they need to get somebody who's a head of football operations like you were talking about earlier. And I said to him, Giants don't operate like that. That's the problem. So it's kind of a non-starter. But maybe I was being too abrupt with him. So maybe we should think, maybe the people should start thinking outside the box and say, just because we've done it a certain way in the past, maybe we need to start doing something differently. Goldberg, that's it, Joe Goldberg.
Yeah, I knew I had the gold. Something.
I should have asked Big Blue Larry. Oh, but Big Blue Larry, while you're on here too, Larry, this is your homework assignment, because can you find out who the longest tenured place kicker in Giants history is? I would love to know, like, who kicked most seasons in a row, who kicked for the Giants, because it seems like it's been a long time since we've had stability at the. I mean, we had some with Lawrence.
I mean, are you going back to like Pat Summerall?
Yeah, but I don't think Pat Summerall was here a while, but I don't know if he was here.
I mean, Gogolak wasn't for very long. Danilo was 4 or 5 years.
Anyways, Larry, I'd be curious to know who the longest.
Oh, he already got it, and I was right. All right, go. All right, there you go.
Okay.
All right.
I'm curious because we don't have a good history with getting a kicker and like having him for like a decade. You know what I mean? And now I know it's changed the free agency, but you know how Dallas keeps coming up with these kickers.
Yeah, but I would say
50-yard field goals. I mean,
I would say that's probably fairly true for 75% of the league. Because the kickers you remember, like if I asked you, name me all the kickers in the NFL right now, you can't do it. I can't do it.
But I went on the punter is a different story, because the bulk of my early youth, it was only Jennings and Landetta.
Sure,
it.
but that and I agree,
That went on forever.
but we also had Fiegels for a long time. We had Fiegels
was a long time.
He was for a pretty decent amount of time.
5 years, 4 years. But Landetta and Jennings were here for a long time.
Yeah, Jennings was for London, and Landetta went after that. But kickers different. There tends to be just a few that stay with their team for a long time. Tucker obviously was with his team until he had his little massage issues. Was there for a long time. There's a few other guys that were, but usually a lot of the other teams are changing guys out every few years.
Is it too much to ask for 5 years? Have a one kicker. Tynes was here how long? Tynes was here probably about what? 5 years, 6 years.
He had to be at least 4.
Right? Well, yeah, yeah. But I would like to have a kicker here for. My New Year's wish is, can we have a kicker who's stable enough to be here like 6 years?
Well, can he just be a younger guy that I don't go and spend a ton of money on a dude? Like, kicker's not the difference between us going to the Super Bowl and not going to the Super Bowl. So I don't need a $6 million kicker. I need a guy with a leg that can actually blast it and go. The funny thing is that we had Matt Stover, who was a kicker in the NFL for a very long time, was with us in, I believe, in the 90 preseason, but didn't win the job. He missed a field goal in preseason that was like, it was 2/3 of the way up the pole from 55 yards out. I'm like, that dude's got a leg.
He had a monster career, So, but even the great kickers that we think about were only here for a couple of years or so.
He was 6 years, 2007 through 2012.
Like Matt Barr wasn't here a long time. So, anyways, we're all over the place.
Well, Matt Barr was old when we got him, though. If you remember,
Big Blue Larry, he should be running the Giants history department. He should be running their whole history section. But they're going to be mad at you, Larry. You've been you've been bringing the hammer down on them with the articles.
But if you remember Matt,
we gotta have Larry. I'm sorry, we gotta have the Larry come on again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If you remember Matt Barr, though, I believe the Giants started with that Allegre, and then did they bring in Bob Thomas briefly? And then they got Matt Barr. I think we went 3 kickers before Barr became the guy that year.
Oh, do you remember the '85 season when we went through like 4 or 5 kickers?
We had Jess Atkinson was a kicker. Yeah, Eric Schubert.
Schubert, the school teacher. Dave. Yeah. So from that team, 2 of my favorite quotes was Sims says it, but I think Sims got it from Parcells. I think, but I'm not sure. But he said the difference between being 12-4 and 8-8, this is back when there were that many games, is winning the close games. And when you think about it, what a giant difference that is in terms of your record and whether you're going to the playoffs and whether you win the division or not. 12-4 and 8-8 seems like a giant spread. It's 4 games. But he said the difference in that is winning those close games, and the other is special teams. Now, I think some of the NFL rules are starting to legislate some of the special teams out of the league, which maybe people will disagree on that. But like this new kickoff, I don't like the new kickoff. I don't know how people feel like it. It bothers me. Again, I'm old guy. I don't get off my lawn. I don't like change. I don't like the new kickoff rule, and I think they're legislating the kickoff out of the NFL. I wouldn't be shocked if in 5 or 6 years they get rid of the kickoff altogether. So it comes, so the question now is how many resources should you spend on kickoffs? To me, it seems, in getting special teams players. I'll give you an example, and part of this is injury, but we signed a couple of linebackers in the offseason just because of their special teams value, and I don't know if they've made any difference this year.
Well, if you look at some of the guys we signed,
Demetrius Flanagan Foles.
No, him, but I'm thinking Demuke. I can't even say his name.
He can't stay healthy.
That dude's been injured. Golston was injured quite a bit. I mean, a lot of the bit players that we signed, they've just been injured. They haven't even been on the field. And then your starters are out, so you're going like four or 5 deep now at linebacker and on edge. And I'm like, This season couldn't possibly, for Joe Schoen, could not have gone worse. Some of the things that he did.
At least he wasn't on Hard Knocks again.
Well, what I mean is like, okay, I give you that, but in the way that he did things, right? You spend a shit ton on Russell
No,
Wilson.
you're right, John.
For
I'm
no
just saying he
reason.
wasn't publicly humiliated by it because it wasn't airing his dirty
Right.
laundry. But you're
Sure.
right. This was a disastrous season for Joel Schoen. So again, Pat, I'm not going to be like, again, people are going to think I'm like, go yay Pat, but Pat Leonard did his job and called him out on it, and
No, he definitely did.
not in an embarrassing, unprofessional way. He basically said other people are losing their jobs for not performing. Why are you still here? And it was the way he asked it was a fair question. Now, how do you answer that? I understand the question.
I understand the question. I'm not going to answer it, but I understand the question. So
we should probably wrap this up.
I was thinking. So here's the question I'm going to ask you,
Yeah.
and I'm going to ask chat at the same time. We talked about it last week. We chose not to live stream the Patriots game, but we did say we would live stream the Commanders game. Do you want to live stream the Commanders game? And does chat want us to live stream the Commanders game?
That would be the easiest game for me to watch. We could do that.
I'm all for it. If you want to do it, I'm all for it.
1:00, right?
It's a 1:00 game.
They're not going to move it.
What are they going to flex it to? 9 a.m. They're like, we're just going to push it over here if we could.
Can you imagine if they flex that to a Sunday night game?
Jesus Christ.
Yay, Marcus Mariota versus we have Jackson Dart, but question is does Abdul Carter get a sack in the last 4 games? So
yeah, I'm not overly celebrating the sack in the last. He had a lot of pressures, don't get me wrong, but pressures has been the thing we've been holding our hat on all year. The one sack was May ran right to him. He pulled him down before the line of scrimmage. That wasn't overly.
Yeah,
I want a dominant game from him. I got to see something that says you showed up on time.
The weird thing is like and people are going to say Eric stopped defending him, but you see it in every game. You see him; he's buzzing around the quarterback constantly. He's capable of having a 3-sack game. He could have a 3-sack game this Sunday. What will he? I don't know.
But what I want to see though, the thing is I don't care about the pressures. I don't. I mean, they're important, but you know what I've seen? I've seen James Pierce, a guy that has very big character questions. That's why he dropped. And I watched him get multiple sacks for a very shitty Falcons team. These guys that are coming in, it doesn't matter how close you are. You've got to make plays. When you add on the issues about being on time, you add on some issues apparently about some other things that have been going on. I don't know if you follow the Annie Agar, who does the funny videos where she plays all the different roles. Anyway, it's pretty funny. But she mentioned a thing about it got dropped faster than like some porn. She made a porn reference basically to Abdul Carter about what he's watching in a meeting. I thought that was hysterical. But you don't want that kind of shit getting out there. That's a bad look in a bad season. You don't want that stigma. So he needs a game that says this is why you were the 3rd pick in the draft.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see that. I would see, of all the things down the stretch, I'd like to see is Jackson Dart continue to give us hope. I would like to see Abdul Carter start showing why he was a consensus top 3 pick. Right. And some people thought top 2 pick, and some people thought top 1 pick. I mean, it's revisionist history to say otherwise. There were like, if Dave Del Cole's out there, Dave Del Cole's the only person I ever heard who said grab the tight end before. Of course, Dave's a big trade down guy, which I am too. Dave always
I'm fully on board this year. But
get. So, anyways, all right. On that note, my last comment is going to be like this: is going to sort of go full circles again. The thing that we need to concentrate on in the next month is who's running the team, who's calling the shots, who is deciding the fate of the head coach and the general manager. Right now, we do not know who that is. I don't know who this is. I don't know if anybody out there knows who that is. Public. So if the reporters know, they need to report it, but we don't know who's running them. And the thing that's scary to me, and I don't know if this is true or not, based on what I heard, was a lot of this seems like it hasn't been decided yet, which to me seems ludicrous. So I don't know if that's true or not, but why hasn't this been decided already? Is this still ongoing? And if it's still ongoing, that scares me.
Right.
So,
Right.
so if John is that sick and they still are, infighting might be the wrong choice of words, but they're still trying to determine the line of
like they just
succession,
don't know. Yeah.
that's scary. So I'll leave it at that.
So we'll leave it at that. I'll a couple things not related. If you get a chance to take a look online of the interview with Joe Burrow today, I found that very interesting. There's a guy that sounds like he's dealing with some stuff, and that football right now is not as fun for him, and he wants to play when it's fun, and right now it's not fun. Sounds like he's got some other stuff going on, but it's a very weird. It's a very heavy interview with him. You see a personal
he's a different
side.
guy. Yeah, he's a different guy.
And
I don't blame him in the sense that he's in a bad situation with the team owner that doesn't surround him with.
But they spent a lot of money. The problem is they spent a lot of money on their weapons, but didn't spend the stuff in front of them, and their defense is a sieve. And the other thing that I'll say too is if you can subscribe, all that good stuff, it really does help us. Really do appreciate.
Yeah, our last show did great.
Yeah, it was cool. And then positive thoughts. I've got a meeting tomorrow. I'm going with my son to a meeting. He's looking to join the U.S. Air Force, and we'll see how that goes tomorrow. So
that'd be two of
that'd be two. I got one in the Navy, and I got one, and then this one would be in the Air Force. So,
by the way, my son may be heading to Japan too.
No kidding. What do you know? What base?
They haven't told him. They haven't even told him when they're going to go. I said, well, when will you know? He said they could tell us the day before.
He's Army or Marines?
Yeah.
Army. Okay.
I asked him if he's even going to be Okinawa or he's going to mainland, and they don't know. He doesn't know yet. So
okay. All right. Yeah, my son's stationed. He's with the Ronald Reagan, but he's stationed in Iwakuni. It's a Marine base in Iwakuni, but that's where he's stationed right now. But actually, last I knew, he was in Guam, enjoying the beach. So we'll see from there. But that being said, we will live stream on Sunday. Then we won't do a different show before that. We will live stream Sunday. I'll set it up. We'll talk.
What if it was us? What if because they went undefeated the preseason when we did this, and we're the good luck charm? What if they
put up 50 on the Commanders?
What if it's us? And we got to get Neil in the chat, who is sort of giving us the preview of the plays before they happen, because he reduced my stress level in half because he kept going on. Oh, they scored, and I'm like,
you're like, we're waiting for the play. I know. So we'll do that. Oh, all right, Steve. Interesting. Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen my son now in 2 years. He's been gone, but he's going to be stationed in Lemoore, California, come September. So he's going to be then out there, so that he'll be back on the mainland, which I can't wait because then we can see him more often. But anyway, that being said, we're going to close this up. Subscribe, all that good shit. We'll see you on Sunday, 1 o'clock. We'll be right before kickoff. We'll stream and enjoy when the Giants probably beat the Commanders like they always do at the end of the year, and Mike Kafka thinks it's the Super Bowl. So appreciate it. We'll catch you again real soon.